Hey there, Squirrel Army. Today we're doing Jodah the Unifier, a legendary cascade deck tech. Alrighty, so we're doing Jodah, the 5-color legend here. And honestly, when I was going through this deck, I really feel like this is what, if you were just to be like getting the new Painbow Precon, if you even just swapped in this as the commander, I feel like that deck would be so much better because it just is a really good deck and a really good place to sort of start. It just gives you that free value type thing, and yes, it might not have all the cards that you might want for that deck or need for that deck, but I feel like it would be a much better deck overall for the most part. Just putting this in the command zone, you can put the other guy in there somewhere, the Jared in there if you really want, but hey, that is what it is. But anyway, in case you guys don't really know much about the new Jodah, I'll just read it out really quickly. So basically, first ability is all your legendaries get +X, where X is the number of legendaries you control. So, that's pretty good. It's that sliver style of an effect. Legion Sliver, I think it is, on just for legends, though. So that's kind of good, but it's not the best ability on this card, and that's a busted ability, or can be a busted ability with the right other abilities going on. And whenever you cast a legendary spell from your hand, you exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a legendary card, non-land card with mana value, lesser mana value. You cast the card without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So, legendary cascade, essentially. So that is what this commander does. So it's another sliver style of effect, which is the first sliver, I believe. I can forget all the slivers and what they do. But yes, so it has two different sliver abilities, essentially, which is a bit interesting, especially since people have been theorizing slivers might be coming back, but hey, that is what it is. So, but anyway, we'll get going along and get to finding some really good cards for this deck. Now, it'll be hard to have every card be a legend, but we'll try to fill this deck with as many legendary creatures as what we can. If you're enjoying the content here, you can join the Squirrel Army by subscribing and turning on the notification. Alrighty, so here we are now over on the Architect Builder, having a look at the deck. I do think maybe I didn't quite put enough removal in this deck, maybe, but hey, it is what it is. There was a lot of cool spells that I kind of wanted to put in, plus needed a whole bunch of other stuff, so I was just kind of like, oh dear. But it is what it is at the end. Also, as I do say, I do try to make these lists as budget as possible when I do them. So a lot of the lands that I've got here are some of the less good, like just ETB tap lands that don't have any types. I actually think if you're building this deck and you're opening any Dominaria, getting some of the tapped dual lands that have types is pretty good. Also, the Kaldheim dual lands are pretty good. The snow ones, so yeah, those ones, if you're on a real budget and you don't really want to have these other ones and you want to have some good mana fixing lands, those ones are pretty good. But I do that because there'll always be people being like, well, I can't afford a really good mana base. So if you have the money to get a better mana base than what I've kind of put together here, then obviously do so if you can or if you really want to. But again, I try to put this together so that anyone can put this deck together almost no matter what their budget is. So Without all that being said, I'm not going to go through the removal too much because you can just, like, it's the, you know, obvious kind of stuff. And maybe, again, I should have put one more removal spell in here somewhere, or whatnot, but that is what it is. Great Henge. Just really good for card draw. So I thought that was good. Plus, you know, gives us a couple mana, so, you know, puts counters on our stuff, whatnot. So that's useful. Heroes Pilgrim, or Podium, rather, whatever. Buffs up our legends. We can pay X to look at the top cards of X cards of our library, put a legendary creature card from among them into our hand, the rest on the bottom. So, you know, a little bit of card draw there. Great Henge is pretty expensive, but still very useful card. Sunbirds, just giving our spells more cascade, for at least the first spell. Rhythm of the Wild, we don't want our stuff to be countered. We also sometimes want haste on our creatures, and sometimes we want to counter when we don't want haste, so that's useful. Omniscience, we just play stuff for free. That's really useful. Cascade on our first spell each turn. We don't have much flash, but that's good enough for our turn of just giving our things additional cascade. Bard class, this one seems a bit odd, but its last ability is really good as well. But plus it does some other stuff. So legendary creatures you control enter the battlefield with an additional counter, which is okay. Legendary creature spells cost red and green less to cast. So that's also useful sometimes. Red and green does seem to be our main kind of couple of colors in this deck. Whenever we cast a legendary spell, we exile the top cards of our library and we may play them this turn. So not exactly the same thing, but it does give us that card advantage, so that does help us out. Not going to go through too much of the ramp sort of stuff because it's like the typical stuff that we would see: Cultivate, Farseek, Nature's Law, 3 Visits. Actually, maybe there should be some more ramp in here. Rampant Growth, Kadama's Reach, etc. That sort of stuff. So there should be more ramp in here too. Eerie Ultimatum gets our stuff back when our stuff dies, so that's really useful. Genesis Ultimatum just puts a whole bunch of permanents from the top of our library into play. So that's what I also thought this deck is kind of about. It's kind of just getting this free value type thing, and this is a pretty good free value card. So I thought that was pretty good. Actually, Kamal's Druidic Vow can be pretty good ramp as well. Plus, it's sort of a Genesis ultimatum as well. We look at the top X cards of our library. We may put any number of land or legendary permanent spells with mana value X or less from among them onto the battlefield, the rest into our graveyard. We're not going to get too many things into our graveyard. Maybe some, but it's fine. Because we got Primeval's Glorious Rebirth as well. So that gets all our legendary stuff back. From the graveyard. Most of our stuff's legendary, so that's useful. Ruinous Ultimatum just blows up all our opponent's stuff. Same with Urza's Ruinous Blast. So yeah. I do want to say that World Tree and like some of that sort of stuff is one of the most necessary things for this deck, so that's kind of why. And also probably Murmuring Bosk is probably... Oh no, it's only like $1. But yeah, World Tree is probably one of the most expensive lands that we've got here currently for this list, and I do think that's an absolute need card. Now, as I said, with this list, there's not 100% legends. There's some stuff like Apex Devastator that just has quad cascade, so that's really useful because it can just get 4 things into play for free for us, essentially. So that's really useful. We don't want to really care about this thing after it's done its thing. Like if it has additional cascades from any other effects, that's really good as well. So yeah, and most of our stuff's going to be less. Arvad just buffs our legendaries. More buffing of our legendaries is good. Phoenix, just more cascade, so that's really useful sometimes. Averna kind of ramps this as well, so I forgot about that. But anyway, just really good in that regard, and just another legend that's good. Chulain can ramp us as well, and just a really good card. Elish Norn buffs up our stuff, makes our opponent's stuff smaller, really useful. Elsha, we're usually playing this for the other side, the Planar Bridge, because again, I think it's a deck where you want that free value stuff going on. Ethereum Horns, Sorcerer, just more Cascade. Faladon just makes wolves whenever we cast things from Cascade, essentially. And those wolves can be useful to block or whatever, chump attackers or whatever, things like that. So that can be useful. Flamekin just gives our commander Cascade, so if it dies or if we get this early game, we can just put it down and then our commander cascades into something else for us, so that can be useful. We're casting lots of multicolored spells in this deck, so I thought General Ferrous Rotrick would be alright in this deck, so that's pretty good. Emoti, just our big stuff has Cascade, so that really helps out, plus it cascades itself. So it can double cascade with our commander and whatnot. So that's really, really useful. Gigantha, just like mana rock essentially. Plus it is a legend. So yeah, that's really good to cascade as well. Jodah, we're casting lots of legends. Legends are historic, so we'll draw some cards. So that's really, really good. Ruin End Diver, a legend that draws us cards whenever we play 2 spells. Casting a spell from Cascade also counts for casting a spell, so that will count for our second spell, so that helps us out. Catilda also is a mana dork, so actually, yeah, maybe we have more ramp than what I thought, but can buff up our stuff as well, plus it cascades maybe into something smaller, but I don't think we have much smaller than that. Kalitas Kethis? Kethis. That's right. Legendary spells 1 less, so that's alright. There are some things I know people can do with this, but that's not what we're doing. We can get our legends back or whatnot with it, which is useful sometimes. Kadama just lets us essentially play something from our hand for free whenever we cast something. So that's really useful. Again, we're in that plan of we want to play things for free or get extra value from what we're doing. Maelstrom Wanderer, just one of the great Cascade cards, great Cascade legends, so really useful. Nephalacier, don't know how you pronounce this thing. Whenever we cast a spell from exile, we can copy it. I know we've got a lot of legends in this deck, but there are some legends that we've got with ETBs and whatnot, so that can be useful. So yeah, we can get additional effects off of that. Nihira, whenever we cast a spell, we might be like, this spell isn't that good. I'm just going to get rid of it and be like, okay, cool, I'm going to reveal cards until I find something, better or whatever, or reveal the next thing that's on top or whatever it is. So it can do some interesting stuff. So yeah, very interesting. Fiddle around, and it also cascades for us, so that's useful as well. So Piru, we're mostly legends, so it's not really going to hit us, and it's going to hit our opponents for a lot of stuff and going to give us lots of life. Prosper, we're casting lots of things from exile, so we'll get lots of treasures from him, so that's really useful. His other ability to exile the top cards, also okay. We don't really care about it that much, but it's okay. It's there. Raph, actually, this gives us things flash. I forgot that this is in here. We cast things that flash, and he has flash, so that's useful. Ramos, we're casting lots and lots of coloured cards here, so he can generate lots of mana for us late game. Rashmi, again, more like free value cards. When we cast our first spell, we reveal the top, which, I think you have to do this after you've cascaded, don't you? I don't know. But anyway, whatever. We get more free value. If it's a non-land card with mana value, less than the spell we cast it without paying its mana value. Otherwise, we put it to our hand. So mostly just card draw, actually, to be honest. Reki, just more card draw, and as a legend, draws cards, cascades, whatever, all that stuff. Rennie, again, we've got lots of multicolored stuff, so we can buff our stuff up whenever multicolored creature dies, we return it to the battlefield. So that's really useful. Oh no, to our hand, sorry, whatever. But still, we get it back. Sakashima's Protege, we can copy something, which, can be our stuff or can be an opponent's stuff, but it also has Cascade. So, useful there as well. Sakura Tribe, just ramp. Samut, sorry. Gives our other stuff haste, so that's really useful. Shalai can buff up our stuff, gives our stuff hexproof, so that's really good, plus legend, so cascades. Shinad gives our creatures menace. Whenever we play a legendary, we draw a card, so that's also useful. We're playing lots of legends in this deck. More card draw is good. Saruk, we want our stuff to punch people, and when our stuff's really big, we need ways to get that damage through. So, having trample or having flying is really useful. And again, he's a legend, so he'll cascade. And also means our creature spells can't be countered. First sliver. We don't have many slivers in this deck, but I thought that this was kind of like, that makes sense because it's cascade, plus it's a legend, so it can have double cascade, so really useful. Thrax, spells 5 or greater can't be countered. We've got a lot of spells that are 5 or greater, and they also cost 1 less. So that's really useful. Vega, everything that we cast from exile is going to draw us a card, which is useful. Magic Sorcerers, giving more of our spells cascades, very useful. Yidris, more cascade, another legend that's really useful. Zakama, basically to be a 0 mana spell. So yeah, that's really useful as well. And that's pretty much the deck there, guys. Yes, I believe that the last deck that I did forget for like 2 seconds to put the deck, maybe 2 days, whatever it was, to put the deck list up. But I do tend to put the deck lists up in the comments as a pinned comment. So if you do want to find this deck, this list, it should be in the comments as a pinned comment. And if not, it should be eventually soon. I do get there eventually. But yeah, you guys can tell me what you think of this list. It's not a perfect list, as I say. Mana base could be a lot better. But this is more for, again, if you're just like, whatever, I'm going to throw this deck together. How much is it going to be? And I think it was like, it's even $300-something. Again, so it's a really expensive deck, even though I sort of tried as hard as I could to keep it, as much low cost as I could. But again, every little thing adds up, so eventually it gets up pretty high. So you can't really get too good of a deck for even a couple $100 and whatnot. But anyway, guys, as I say, yes, if I don't see you down there in those comments telling me what you think, I'll see you in the next one.